What's up, guys? Sean here, coming at y'all with a quick little video. Tonight, the Philadelphia Eagles head down to Baltimore for their first preseason game of the year against the Ravens. And look, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I care very much about the final score of a preseason game. The Eagles could win by 20, they could lose by 20. None of that's going to matter in a couple weeks anyway. But what does matter tonight is what happens with some of these individual players, some of these guys we've been following through camp. Because after a few weeks of training camp, we've got some really interesting position battles beginning to take shape. We've got a wide receiver who's been one of the biggest stories of camp, and after the camp he had last year, it's not too surprising. We have a legitimate backup quarterback position battle between Tanner McKee and Andy Dalton. We've got a bunch of young offensive linemen looking to take shape in this new offensive scheme. And then we've got a lot of defensive players that are just fighting for a spot on the team because we have so many starters locked up already. So today, I want to go through the Eagles, who we're going to be watching the closest tonight at Baltimore, and exactly what I want to see from all of them. But first, if you're new here, please like, please subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our content moving forward. We're posting daily Eagles and 76ers content, and we're racing to 1,000 subscribers. I can't do that without you guys. I appreciate y'all and love y'all so much. Thank you so much again for all the support. With that being said, let's get right into the video. Before we get into anything else, we've got to start with Darius Cooper. If you've been watching these videos throughout Eagles training camp, you already know this is someone I talk about daily, and there's a reason for that. All the noise he made last year, all the noise he's making this year, Cooper's just continued to make plays all throughout training camp. It isn't just one good practice. It isn't just a day or two. He opened up training camp making big catches, and he's done that every day since then. He's also not just some unknown guy. We've seen the same thing last year. Nobody thought that an undrafted wide receiver was going to make the Eagles roster, especially not some Tarleton State guy. Now he's entering year 2. He looks like he's bigger, stronger, faster, smarter, and he's trying to force his way into a way bigger role with the departure of A.J. Brown. The current unofficial depth chart has Wicks ahead of Cooper right now, but with Cooper's contract, with how he's playing, with how he's looked, I just think there's no way that he's not going to have a bigger role this year. I think he's going to end up being our wide receiver too, and I think Wicks is going to have a pretty big role this year too. I think it's Lemon who's actually getting forced out into the 3rd, 4th, 5th spot because all these other guys have continued to come out and make plays. And, you know, had you known going into the draft that the Eagles were going to be this stacked at wide receiver and have this kind of a battle going on, you almost have to wonder, you know, would the Eagles have still picked up Lemon? You know, would you have still traded up for him if you knew that the guys you brought in were going to make this kind of noise? It's just, I like Lemon, and I really hope he has a good season. I'm really trying not to like sour my opinion on him or anything like that. I do think he's going to have a Puka Nacua type feel and role with this team, but you got to look at guys like Wicks and Cooper and see what they're doing. And it just makes you wonder, you know, how can Lemon come out and do anything at the beginning of the season when he hasn't had any time on the field? You know, there's no connection. There's no camaraderie between him and Jalen. And I don't want to sour the offense over him. So it just brings up a lot of questions. Let's get back into Darius Cooper, though. Sorry for that little tangent there. So the Eagles aren't exactly just looking to hand him a starting job. Wicks is obviously their guy because of what they gave up for him, but the opportunity is absolutely there. You're seeing him in drills with ones. Tonight is where things are really going to get interesting because training camp, you know, yes, he's playing against a lot of talent. Now you're lining up against a different team. The Baltimore Ravens are coming out and they've got guys that are looking to make plays just like you. Can Cooper still continue to create separation? How's he going to handle press coverage if they throw that at him? Because it's the Ravens, you're going to see a little bit of everything. How does he move after he catches the ball? Is there any rack? And most importantly, I want to see how often these quarterbacks look in his direction when they need to make a play. 3rd down, 2-minute situations, red zone, anything like that. You know, how is Tanner McKee, Andy Dalton, whoever's out there, are they going to look at him before anyone else? Those are big snaps to watch. If Darius Cooper takes what he's done throughout training camp and carries it into this preseason game and into the next preseason game, the conversation's really going to intensify about him being the true wide receiver too. I've been saying it for a while, but I'm just some guy that covers the Eagles. You know, the team and what they think about him is a totally different thing. This isn't about him making the team. He already did that last year. This is about him taking a job. And I think he's done everything right. And tonight could be his final step in really becoming the wide receiver too. That's why he's my number one watch tonight. Next, we're going to kind of go over quarterbacks a little bit, start with Tanner McKee. Tanner McKee has had a pretty interesting training camp. He has a very interesting preseason ahead of him. Obviously, Jalen Hurts is QB1. No one's going to argue that at this point. But with Andy Dalton coming in, it really changed the way we look at Tanner McKee. Add in Cole Payton to that, and it gives you even a little bit more of an interesting battle. The Eagles are really trying to spread it out. They're really trying to find the best guy for the QB2 spot. There really has begun to be a legitimate QB2 competition over this training camp, which has been pretty interesting. McKee had some encouraging work during the spring, while Dalton has reportedly performed well during camp. So for McKee, these preseason snaps really start to matter. You're not necessarily looking for 300-yard games, 4 touchdown games. You just really want to see, can McKee show us what he's shown us in the past, that he looks like he can be in control, that with the right playmakers around him, he can come out and get you a win. Basically, does the ball come out on time? Is he making the right read? Is he accurate when he's throwing underneath and in the intermediates as he is when he throws the deep ball? What happens if Baltimore starts to send pressure? And probably most importantly, what happens when the first read isn't there? Because early in Tanner McKee's career, it looked like he went through progressions pretty easily. And then the last couple times he's played, it's been a little bit harder to watch. If the first read isn't there, it kind of throws everything off for him. But he's going to be playing with a lot of different offensive line combinations, a lot of different wide receivers. The timing is going to be interesting. I don't expect it to be perfect, but how is Tanner McKee going to work when those things begin to happen? Because you're going to see plays break down. He needs to be able to work through all of it. Now, he's shown enough in his time in Philly that he's a pretty good young quarterback. He can definitely fill in for some snaps. He could definitely fill in for a game. Is he a long-term answer? We're still really not sure about that. He is a developmental quarterback, so maybe at some point he will take over a team and he will get that shot. But Andy Dalton gives this team, this coaching staff, a very experienced alternative behind him. These 3 preseason games, if Andy Dalton comes out and shows that he's really in control and he knows what he's doing in this scheme and he continues to do basically what he's done, because Andy Dalton has looked really good throughout all of training camp. McKee started slow and has kind of gotten better as time has went on. These next 3 games are really going to determine who the QB2 is this year. I don't mind Andy Dalton or Tanner McKee. My preference would be to trade Tanner McKee, because you just want to bring in the draft picks at this point. We know we're not going to re-sign him. We're not going to give him long-term money. He wants a chance to go out and start and show what he can do. I think there's a couple teams out there that are actually interesting prospects for Tanner McKee. I think he has a lot of potential, and I think there's still a few teams that see that. Do I think we're going to get a lot for him? No, probably not. But getting anything at this point is better than nothing, especially with how Andy Dalton has looked at QB2. I think he's kind of already won the job, but let's see what happens tonight and over the next couple games. Going to talk about offensive line, mainly Markel Bell. Unbelievable prospect, unbelievable size. He's a rookie 3rd-round pick who's already gotten work at left tackle and right tackle throughout training camp and OTAs. The current depth chart right now has him behind Lane Johnson as the right tackle, backup right tackle. That's really interesting because of the way things have gone with Fred Johnson the past couple years. I am going to be interested to watch him tonight. He's done good against the Eagles in training camp, but can he go out into an actual game? Can he go out and do the same things that he's done throughout his college career and up to this point in training camp? How does he handle speed around the edge? What happens when someone converts speed to power? Can he actually anchor the way he's been taught and the way he's been doing throughout camp? He's a big guy. Is he able to stay balanced? And then the big question, which goes all the way back to the draft, is can he be effective in the run game? Can he get up the field? Can he move people? Can he get to the second level? There's going to be a lot of different concepts in Sean Mannion's offense, and can he do everything that needs to be done? He has had a very encouraging camp. Again, I don't want to take anything away from him. A lot of really good one-on-one reps and a lot of good work on both sides of the line. But now we're in a real game. Now we have stakes. Everybody's fighting for position, for jobs. Lane Johnson's already come out and said that 2026 will probably be his final season. So every snap he gets, it's not really just about what he can do this year. It's about what he's going to be able to do next year. It's kind of changed the way his development looks, and it's going to put him under a microscope. This could be the first game of seeing what the Lane Johnson replacement could potentially look like moving forward. And I'm excited for that. I love Markel Bell. I hope he absolutely dominates tonight. Miami guy, good dude, giant dude, but I love him. And I absolutely hope he smashes tonight. We'll go over to Willie Lampkin, undersized guy, big story. I mean, he's a Jeff Stoutland project, but he's come into camp and he's been really good. He's been really, really solid. He's listed at center on the depth chart. He's gotten work at guard and center throughout the whole camp process. People have had no choice but to notice him. Some of it is size, some of it is just the talent that he actually brings. During offensive line, defensive line one-on-ones, he had a ton of impressive reps. He's gotten constant praise from teammates because of how much he shows up. The versatility is catching on with the coaches. It's exactly what you want from a backup interior offensive line. You know how it goes with those guys. They have to be able to make multiple positions or you're probably not going to make the team. If you can play guard and center, it just gives the coaching staff a reason to keep you around. We all know that. So we're going to be watching how he lines up tonight. I expect a lot of center in the beginning, but he's absolutely going to play some guard too. I think he's going to be one of the guys that probably plays a lot of snaps in this game. They might play him at left center and right guard just to see what he can do at every position and where he plays well. And I'm excited for him as well. Great story. All right, we're going to get into Ty Robinson a little bit. Now, I'm not going to cover him for too long because I think Ty Robinson has kind of already sealed his fate. Fourth round pick a couple years ago. He on the unofficial depth chart, they are very generous with him. But I don't think he's making this team this year. I think he's out. He's listed behind Jordan Davis on the unofficial depth chart. We have seen some improvement this camp, a couple good one-on-one snaps, but he's going to have to make a ton of noise throughout these games to really make this roster. One-on-ones are one thing, but going out in game and being effective is a totally different thing. The Eagles didn't trust him last year. They didn't give him any snaps last year. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he comes out and he absolutely dominates, but I haven't seen or heard really anything from him. We have to see some disruption tonight. It doesn't necessarily have to be stats, tackles, sack, but he has to penetrate. He has to collapse the pocket. He has to look strong, look like a defensive tackle, beat a couple blocks, at least just show us something, change a running back's direction, just something, anything he can do to go out there and just show that he wasn't a wasted fourth round pick, because the defensive tackle position on this team is not like in the rest of the league. He could get away with being what he is on a lot of other teams, but not on a team with Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Moro Jomo, and Ua Bernard on top of it, who's a freak athlete and coming in and learning how to play the game. Those are four guys right there. And a lot of teams only keep 4 or 5 DTs. So, Ty Robinson, you're just going to have to show something tonight. If he comes out and he doesn't do anything, you could start looking at him to be a trade candidate or a cut candidate coming here soon. But let's see what he does tonight. Running back will be a pretty interesting one for me because I personally think Saquon and Tank are 100% locks, and that's probably not much of a hot take. Behind Tank Bigsby, you get to Will Shipley, Dameon Pierce, Carson Steele, and Jaquindon Jackson. And I'll just be honest here. Will Shipley, I don't really like him. Dameon Pierce, I do like. He had some big games a couple years ago. He did fall off with the Texans, suffered some injuries and just didn't look the same. But if he can return to form, I think he could be our A.J. Dillon this year, kind of our third running back, fill-in running back. And he could be really, really good in that position. I think he's still got a little bit more pop than people realize. I'll be watching him big time tonight. Will Shipley, on the other hand, he's going to have to go out and just fight for his life. He dropped a huge pass wide open in training camp, and that's about the only update you've gotten on him. Hasn't been much of a kick returner, hasn't been much of a punt returner, hasn't been much of anything. So I don't really care for Will Shipley. And then the guys behind Dameon Pierce, undrafted free agents, camp bodies, I don't expect much from them. But we'll kind of get more of an idea whenever they get out there tonight, and we'll get to see a little bit more of who pops, who doesn't. Do any of these guys have some speed or something that we're looking for that can help them carve out a role on this team? Because I really want to see if anybody can become our kick returner, and I think tonight will help them a lot on showing if they're even capable of doing that, because that's a huge hole for us this year. I'd really like to see one of these backup running backs go out there and fill that kick return role, because I think we have some speed, and I think we have some guys that could potentially do it. And then big picture offense, you're going to be looking at Sean Mannion's offense. This will be our first game to look at Sean Mannion's Eagles offense, the thing that they've all been working on, the thing they've created this offseason. Obviously, in his first year with Philadelphia, first season as an offensive coordinator, I don't expect him to come out and look like a 10-year vet. I don't expect him to come out and show everything in game 1 of the preseason. But at the same time, we need to start executing and executing early. We need to see that the schemes and the ideas that we have going into this year can actually work. But I still think there's things we can learn. Throughout the offseason and training camp, we've heard Mannion trying to marry the running game and the passing game together. We've heard a lot about some movement behind the line, different formations, seeing the offense work under center a lot more. There's been discussions about incorporating more wide zone concepts into the running game. So tonight we're going to watch the structure of that. How does the offense flow? How does the offensive line move? Obviously, it's a lot of backups. We're going to be watching tempo, definitely going to be watching for motion behind the line, pre-play snap, just a little bit of misdirection. The run game is what we're probably going to see the most of early on, but that's just because it's a zone blocking scheme, so it's going to be kind of hard not to see exactly what the running game looks like. You're just not going to see the main guys doing the running tonight, more than likely. It'll even come down to how comfortable the quarterbacks look operating the offense. Do they look like they know what they need to do and what's happening? But if we're lucky, we might get just a small glimpse of what Sean Mannion's offense is going to look like. And that's going to make things really exciting because all it'll take is one or two little things to really make the city pop. And I think that'll be a lot of fun to watch for. And I think Sean Mannion's going to have some surprises for us. I don't think they're going to come out and just be lame ducks. And then really last but not least, I'm going to be looking at the linebacker battle. I think linebacker is going to be one of the most interesting things to watch. Pass rusher, safety, also kind of interesting. I can't wait to watch Small Mondon come out, Trot Jr., the undrafted guy. We just signed another linebacker from that was with Kansas City the other day, an athletic freak. There's going to be a lot of cool linebacker battles as well. And I know Trot's probably not going to get a lot of playing time this year. I know him and Mondon are probably going to be more special teams than anything, backup roles, stuff like that. But I'm excited to watch them go out and thump tonight because those are guys that could be starters. And you're going to have a ton of people watching, a ton of NFL people watching. And if one of these linebackers goes out and makes some real noise, who knows? Maybe another GM pulls the trigger. They're like, hey, this dude's got it. Let's go get him. We have nothing at linebacker and the Eagles have 5 guys that can go out and, maybe not start, but make an impact. So, 2 lockdown guys in the beginning, 2 potential starters behind that, and then 2 guys that are trending up right now behind that. So it's really interesting. Eagles have never been this rich at linebacker, and it's really a lot of fun to watch. And that'll be my last position that I'm really watching tonight. But I want to know what you guys think. Who's the number 1 Eagle you're going to be watching tonight against Baltimore? For me, it's definitely Darius Cooper. The wide receiver 2 battle has been my biggest thing this offseason. It's the most exciting thing to watch outside of maybe the pass rusher with Jalix Hunt taking over. That's been a lot of fun as well. But Cooper comes out, starts making plays tonight. It's a wrap for me. Put him in bubble wrap until the season starts, and he has nothing else to show. If he comes out and he looks bad, then oopsie daisies, that sucks. And the wide receiver battle continues. That's pretty much how it'll go. But let me know in the comments below who you think's going to take over in this game. Let me know who you're going to be watching. But we may be back later tonight with a video. We might live stream the game, or I might just drop another video tomorrow kind of highlighting everything that went down. Not 100% certain yet, but comment down below. Let me know what you guys are looking for. Let me know what you'd like to see in the future. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. Thanks for hanging with me, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.